Chapter 741, To Be the Green Leaf. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Soon enough, another two heirs of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion also arrived at the foot of Scroll Mountain by chariot. One of them was named Chen Kai, who had been the only saintly being from the Eastern Region Saint Mansion for the last 100 years. He was known as the top master among its four heirs. His cultivation had reached the 9th change in the fish-dragon realm. At 68, he did not look his age, rather, he looked like a young man of 27 or 28. While staring at Chen Kai, Aoxinian twitched her lips a bit to whisper to Zhang Yuochen. She told him, "This man is Chen Kai, a holy river saint being. He is widely celebrated in Eastern Region. According to messengers of our divine dragon half-human clan, Chen Kai could possibly have refined a drop of divine blood, and he is a formidable figure as well as the most important heir of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion." Zhang Yuochen nodded slightly to Chen Kai with his eyes on him. Another heir of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion was a young woman named Chen Lena whose delicate features resembled Huang Yanjun. She had a plump figure and fair skin. Her eyebrows were drawn on in vermilion, imparting an air of elegance and nobility. Chen Lena wore a silver gauze blouse with a myriad of inscriptions floating on it, so that she was glimmering with a silver sheen. Obviously, the blouse was a superior defensive holy weapon. Chen Kai and Chen Lena each had 8 warlords in the 9th change in the fish-dragon realm standing behind them. Aoxinian whispered again to Zhang Yuochen. "This woman is Chen Lena, the granddaughter of the Prince of the Eastern Region. Though her cultivation is the 8th change in the fish-dragon realm, she has outstanding prowess in array, and she reached the 44th level of spiritual power. With her defensive arrays deployed, Chen Lena can equal Chen Kai." When Zhang Yuochen sized up the 3 heirs of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion, he perceived strange reactions to Huang Yanjun, hostility and disdain. They looked down on her. Zhang Yuochen frowned in displeasure, but he soon figured out the reason. Huang Yanjun was, after all, just a distant relative of the Juns, and she was the weakest among them, too. What if she became one of the heirs? How could a direct descendant of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion respect her? Chen Kai got off his chariot. His combat boots thumped into the ground as he walked. He looked august and overwhelming. "We are the heirs of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion, and we represent Saint Prince's mansion. We can't lose face today, no matter what." When he finished his words, Chen Kai looked pointedly at Huang Yanjun. Obviously, he was alluding to her. Chen Lena walked out of her chariot with elegant steps and a siren smile. If somebody can't even make her way to the 4th rank, talent seats, she should be removed from her position as the heir of Saint Prince's mansion. We can't afford to lose face. Things were getting awkward. Even the warlords cast mocking glances at Huang Yanjun behind her back. Huang Yanjun remained silent the whole time, as if she had not heard the meaning behind their words. But, under her sleeves, her hands clenched into fists so tightly that her knuckles cracked. In fact, Huang Yanjun did not care about the position as the heir. When direct Chen descendants rained ridicule on her, she just wanted to give up on the position. But when she recalled that Zhang Yuochen had paid a huge price to earn her the position before he died, she was caught with a pang of anger, and she told herself to keep on going. Even if she was not as talented, she could practice harder and spend much more time than others to make herself stronger. Her efforts eventually paid off. Within less than a year, her cultivation reached the 7th change in the fish-dragon realm. However, there was still a huge gap between her and the other 3 heirs. "No matter how much mocking and ridicule is waiting for me, I must not give up. If I lose the position, how can I take vengeance on 9 Serenity Sword sent for killing Zhang Yuochen?" Huang Yanjun gritted her white teeth and bit her lip until it was bleeding, filling her mouth with the taste of blood. Zhang Yuochen shifted his eyes from Huang Yanjun, who grinned and bore it, to the other 3 heirs. He was seized with mixed feelings. He whispered to Aoxinian, "Senior Sister Apprentice Yanjun is given the upper hand, as she owns the Xuanwu Holy Source, but she is not comparable to Chen Tanping, Chen Kai and Chen Lena in terms of talent. Originally, I earned the position for Senior Sister Apprentice Yanjun, and I only thought that in this way, she could have more practice resources from the Eastern Region Saint Mansion and improve her cultivation. I never expected that it would put her in trouble. It's all my fault. Aoxinyan jolted slightly, feeling something off about Zhang Yuochen. Group leader. What are you going to do? Tonight, I want to play a supporting role for her. Zhang Yuochen smiled faintly and looked up at the top of the scroll mountain. I have to help her win at least one of the 108 king seats. He was willing to be her green leaf, the supporting actor, the foil. Aoxinyan was startled by Zhang Yuochen's decision. She never expected her group leader to make such a choice. With his power, he would stand a chance even if he was going to compete for one of the seats himself. But from his tone of voice, she could tell that he had no intention of taking one of the seats on Scroll Mountain. Instead, he chose to be the green leaf to set off Huang Yanqian's flower. Aoxinyan secretly looked at Huang Yanqian and found herself burning with jealousy. Huang Yanqian had such a brilliant fiancé who loved her with all his heart and was willing to make a secret sacrifice for her. He would even give up his own opportunity to be one of the heirs of Kunlun's field. If a man like him loved me like this, I could die happy. Aoxinyan bit her lips tightly as her inner jealousy faded away and was replaced by a wave of admiring envy. Chen Kai looked at Huang Yanqian and asked her, Cousin Yanqian, you are one of the heirs of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion, so why don't you have royal guards behind you? Your cultivation is only the 7th change in the fish-dragon realm. Do you think you can take one of the talent seats? Chen Tanping sneered. If the heir of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion can't even take one of the talent seats at the Kunlun Heirs banquet, it would be so embarrassing. Chen Lena giggled, with her slim fingers touching her chin. If Cousin Yanqian can't afford royal guards, I can lend you two to help you take one of the seats. Huang Yanqian gasped deeply and tried to suppress her anger. Her chest heaved up and down, and then her eyes became sharp. She had to scale Scroll Mountain alone. She had to make her way up, even if she had to sacrifice her body. At this point, Zhang Yuochen took a step forward and appeared at her side. He looked the three heirs in the eye and said calmly, Who says Commandery Princess Yanqian has no royal guard? I am her royal guard. You are her royal guard. Chen Kai, Chen Tanping, Chen Lena, and the warlords behind them all looked surprised. Obviously, they never expected that Huang Yanqian really had a royal guard. But he was just one man. How much could he really help her? Perhaps, this guy was just fawning over her because she was beautiful and the heir of Eastern Region Saint Mansion. After all, they recognized that a woman like Huang Yanqian had lots of suitors. It was normal for a geek to be dazzled by her beauty. At the sight of Lin Yue, Huang Yanqian's resolve stiffened. She could not believe her eyes. Chen Kai, Chen Tanping, and Chen Lena did not know his identity. But Huang Yanqian knew that the man in sight was the sword genius from the Yin and Yang sect, and that he had also defeated two masters of the demonic sect. With his power, it would not be difficult for him to take one of King's seats, even if he could not become one of the heirs of Kunlun's field. How could such a young king deign to be her royal guard? Even though Huang Yanqian knew Lin Yue was wooing her, she still could not bring herself to believe that he would be so crazy. What do you want from me? Huang Yanqian asked. Zhang Yuochen said, I'm willing to be your royal guard. I await your bidding. Huang Yanqian was slightly moved, but she refused to believe it. Don't you know that bodyguards are not permitted to take a seat for themselves? Guards cannot become guests. Mr. Lin, you are making a big joke. Swoosh! Zhang Yuochen drew out his golden snake divine rapier and held it before his chest, with his head slightly bowed. He smiled and said, Your Majesty, your royal guard is ready to climb Scroll Mountain with you for the Kunlun Heirs banquet. Eventually, Huang Yanqian was convinced that Lin Yue meant to be her royal guard. But why? Only because Lin Yue meant to woo her? She could not believe that was the only reason. After all, she had only met Lin Yue less than 3 times, so he could not be obsessed with her. Even if Lin Yue was determined to woo her, he would probably have just sent her some treasure. It was next to impossible for Lin Yue to give up the good opportunity to become one of the heirs of Kunlun's field and become her royal guard instead. He must have had some other reasons. Huang Yanqian began to put everything together, like the unusual reaction of Sword Saint Xuanji, the Xuan Wu Sacred Blood and Dragon King's blood sent by Lin Yue, And what was happening now? Everything was unusual, but there seemed to be a logical link between them. Suddenly, she thought she figured out a possible explanation, but she rejected it as impossible at once. Lin Yu is so familiar. I think I have heard this name before. Chen Lena was murmuring to herself, and suddenly something crossed her mind. She swiftly raised her head, eyes shining, and looked at Lin Yu beside Huang Yanjun. She blurted out, "Are you the sword genius of the Yin and Yang sect?"